Thank you, Nicole. Okay, let me quickly share my screen. Okay, can you see it now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Tessa, for inviting me here today. As you said, I'm Donato Patrizi. I'm part of the management committee of the Swiss Water Partnership Youth. I'm also environmental engineer. I study my master at Zurich. That's why I have a Swiss connection. I'm here to present you a little bit the results I've done. I got during my master thesis, during my fieldwork here, and development cooperation project I started right after. As Nicole said, I'm here in Awassa. As you can see from the sun, I'm based here since 2019. And yeah, we can start with the presentation. First of all, I want to give you a little bit an idea, a general idea on how Ethiopian is growing in the last decade. Ethiopian is now the second most populated country in Africa with 112 million inhabitants, but it's also one of the poorest. The GDP per capita is around 850 US dollar per year. This development of the GDP, but also this increase in population has been also facilitated by the choice and the aim of the government to privatize most of the governmental companies and to attract foreign investors. Unfortunately, this economical development is not followed by, let's say, a development of the basic services like water, for example. During the Millennium Development Goals times of between 2010 and 2015, the percentage of population that had access to improve water facility was from 58 to 75%. However, according to the Sustainable Development Goals and the results of the SDG number 6 achieved in 2020, only 13% of the population has access to safely managed water supply. And regarding sanitation, the condition is even worse. Only 77% of the population have access to safely managed sanitation service, making Ethiopia the last country in regarding this goal. As I said, the private sector was the one that, let's say, boosted this economic growth. Ethiopia is the third largest recipient for foreign investment, around 4.14 billion in 2016, decreased to 2.4 billion in 2019. 60% of the investment, foreign investment, comes from China. Of course, China is not a charity foundation, so on the downside, China holds half of the Ethiopian debt and imports here in Ethiopia 90% of the sugar. We think about huge facilities that contribute to this development or are symbolic for this development. We think about the industrial park, construction building of this industrial park. Those are huge area dedicated to foreign companies for manufacturing products. Especially here in Awassa, I will talk to you about later. The industrial park is focused on textile. You've heard probably about the GERD, that will be the biggest dam in all Africa. And you probably heard of it because of the issue this is creating to internationally and to the downstream countries like Sudan and Egypt. Or we think about the Addis Ababa Djibouti railway that gives a direct connection between the port, the harbor in Djibouti at the Red Sea, and and Addis Ababa, so the inner part of the Horn of Africa. The aim of the government does this is to transform Ethiopia in a hub for manufacturing. This is logistically and strategically two reasons, because Chinese company have now access to a place that is near the Red Sea and is also closer to the European company, so closer to the brand. Plus, while before Chinese companies were manufacturing their product in Vietnam and Bangladesh, now they have also access to a labor market that is also lower salary and so lower cost for them. If you think about Hawassa, where I live, where I'm based here since 2019, Hawassa is a town located in collapsed caldera, which is this one. This is the basin, and is located 275 kilometers southern of Addis Ababa. It's capital of the Sidama region and one of the biggest city in southern Ethiopia. As a town, it has also most of the income comes from the manufacturing of textiles, as I will talk later, but also from tourism. It is a place that attracts a lot of, especially local tourists or international tourists that wants to go towards the southern part of Ethiopia. So you see there are fauna and hippos, but also fishing and fresh farming there. The lake occupies almost 10% of the basin area. It's not so deep, almost 11 meters is the average depth between them. As many places on the main Ethiopian rift, on the Rift Valley, it has a problem, water quality caused by presence of fluoride. Fluoride is an intake of fluoride for long term. It gives you problem of fluorosis that brings problem to your teeth. They start becoming yellow and then eventually they will fall, or skeletosis. So it also affects the bones of your body. That's why, especially here in Hawassa, the authorities prefer to supply water for mountains located here or here. They are 60 kilometers apart, but they don't contain excessive fluoride ions, and therefore they are suitable for drinking. Now we'll start maybe a small interaction with you. So I discovered this Google Earth tool. It now allows to see the changes on the land of on the world from 1980s until today for a small video. I use it for focusing on the catchment of the basin of Hawassa. The basin is this one, the other one are sub-basin. So now I would like you to focus a little bit on this video to see where you're gonna see the biggest changes, and then we can talk about it. It's a 15 seconds video, so it will be quite fast, quite a time travel. So maybe you can write it down on the chat, or you can speak up, whatever, where you have seen the biggest changes. So between 1980, there was Hawassa, and 29, 20, 20, 20. Somebody look here, 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 1984. So in 36 years, where the major changes, environmental changes. Let's see, sorry, not here. See in chat. Many weather changes, but human activity seems to be taking the mark part of Hawassa. That's true. Here, something else. Look, this pond here in 1984. look in 2020, just disappeared. There is no more. So, and yeah, that's true. This part of Awassa increased exponentially, especially the northern part. You are right, and especially in the northern part because there was located the industrial park. And also here, you should change also to see some changes from forest or field crops into agricultural field. 1984, look, there was some more green, and with respect to 2020, this is major crops and so on. This is the major changes that, as they said, it's also influenced by the presence of the increase of population. Population is now, sorry, okay. The population is now has a growth of 4% annually. Now we are around about 500,000, but it's projected to be in 2040 around 1.2 million because of a natural growth inside the town, but also of movement of people from rural areas to urban areas. The major driver of this is the installation of this Awassa Textile Industrial Park in 2070s. It is now employing 25,000 people in 25 companies. I would suggest you to have a look at this video from RTS. I don't know, I will maybe share the link later on. It is a 15-minute video by a Swiss journalist that gives you insights about the work inside the Awassa textile factory and how the lifestyle also people changed in Awassa. For example, the house rent in this period, so between 2017 and now, the house rent increased by 9 times, just because so many people came to Awassa. There was a shortage of houses, therefore the prices for rent increased. You can see by the basic wage, 25 francs per month, more or less 22 euros per month. You can see why the Chinese company decided to move their companies from Bangladesh, from Vietnam to Ethiopia, because the basic wage is so low, they can keep on producing at low cost. Who are the customers? Why they come to us? I say they want to be closer to the brand. Their brand are well-known textile factory like Levi's, like Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, H&M. So part of the distribution of the dresses, of the clothes that are sold by those companies comes from Ethiopia. The increase in population also leads to an increase of food, and therefore an increase in the agricultural production. Now 87% of the basin is used for agricultural purposes. That includes cropping, includes pastures, includes agroforestry, and for making space for pastures, for making space for agricultural crops, you have to cut down woodlands, you have to cut down forests for this and for fuel, and therefore you increase the erosion of soil. Increasing the erosion of soil, first of all, you are decreasing the volume of the lake. The lake has now occupies a larger area than it was before, and this has also a lot of impacts. First of all, on the evaporation, because by increasing the area, you are also increasing the evaporation, but also on loss of aquatic habitat, decrease in fisheries. Many people, they told me here, when I was younger, the fish were three times the size. It was much easier to fish here. It has problems, nutrient balance changes. It increases the turbidity, and therefore there is also loss of submerged vegetation in the lake. This is for what concerns the environmental part. But as population as is the cause of these changes, it is also at the end eventually the victim of it, especially during the rainy season that ends around September, October. Most of the houses in many parts of Awassa are flooded. Last September, so at the end of the rainy season, more than 5,000 people had to move, were displaced, had to move from their house to inner part of Awassa because their houses were flooded. So we can see really this combination between being part of the problem and eventually being the major victim of it. During my master thesis, I analyzed the water resources and the changes of precipitation and evapotranspiration from 1980s until 2015. I use reanalysis data, which is a combination of satellite data with modelization. I use it to estimate precipitation. As you can see from this graph, we have two rainy season and the dry season. So there is until it's dry until, let's say, April. Then it starts 1 month rainy season. Then again it's dry, and then a wetter season between July and September, and then starts again the dry season. I also analyzed the trends in that, and actually what I discovered was that the rainy season were wetter and wetter, and shorter, while the dry season were much drier, but also much longer. The evapotranspiration, I calculated the evapotranspiration from the lake, from the land. I used the precipitation and the evaporation to estimate the basin storage of water. Why? Because the groundwater inflow was estimated at 0, because the basin of Awassa is much elevated, it's a higher elevation than the neighbor basin. Runoff 0, because all the water goes out from the lake bed, so through groundwater out. So by calculating the precipitation, subtract evapotranspiration and outflow of groundwater, I estimated, it's a first order estimation, sorry, of the soil storage, of the basin storage. After that part of my field work, I've been here in July 2018. I collected more than 200 water samples along the water supply line of 3 communities, 2 peri-urban and 1 rural communities. This process is called from far to fork. Just to see from the water is abstracted. Here from sources, most of the sources are groundwater sources. It's then pumped to a more elevated reservoir where there is an operator that is performing manual disinfection. They is just preparing a solution of water and calcium hypochlorite, HTH, mixing it, and then putting inside the reservoir by just manually regulating a key, mechanical key, that gives the frequency of drops that enters the water. Then the water is delivered to the point of delivery, the standpipes, where water go and fetch water with these jerry cans, yellow jerry cans, and then water is transported and then consumed at the households. I focus on 2 parameters. There are also the indicators of disinfection, total coliforms. Those indicate if there is good or not disinfection practices, and Escherichia coli. Escherichia coli, they are the real indicator of fecal contamination. So presence of feces inside water. They're not all Escherichia coli, they're not harmful for our body, but some of them, they can transmit water-related disease, such as, for example, diarrhea, cholera. Diarrhea, for example, is the second major cause in the basin of Awassa of death of children under 5 years old. as we can see here, the contamination that actually naturally occurs at the sources, it's then treated, but then the water is is recontaminated before it's drinking. So this part, this disinfection practices, either is not made correctly, or you have another problem here of free residual chlorine, which is the indication of concentration of chlorine inside of water that is not suitable, is not enough to protect the water from recontamination during the transport and during the storage in general. So we can really see here where the problems occur. So in this area here, you have higher contamination, decreases, and then it's recontaminated. While I was collecting water samples, I was also conducting surveys. I collected more than 149 surveys in the same communities. I were questions about health, about demographic. For example, I discovered that there are around 5 to 6 people for every household, and this gives you also an idea on how the people could treat water in their households for 5, 6 people, how difficult it would be. Of course, there are problems of over-reporting during survey-based studies, but the results I got from them are quite interesting. Only 14% of households they use a method for household treatment. They declare to use a method for household treatment, but actually they have treated only 16 households. They have actually treated water in their households in the last 2 weeks. 16% of the households had experienced an event of diarrhea in the previous 2 weeks. Through a multivariate logistic regression model, I put in comparison the events of diarrhea with other factors, and I discovered how diarrhea and the absence of diarrhea is significantly associated with presence of household water treatment in the households, with having sufficient water available so that people have no worry of not using water, but they can use it as much as they want, also for hygiene, and higher education. So how the more you were educated in this case, less probability of having diarrhea. I told you before about the first order storage approximation that they did on the water balance. I used this also to validate it with some question regards the perception of availability of water for people. 56% of people they consider the water quantity as adequate. Only 24% of them say they have water available through all the years. And you can see here when there is deficit in our water balance, it's also where people experience most of water scarcity. Here, so during the dry season here and here. After that, it was the end of my master thesis and of my field work. I was thinking about, okay, what should I do now with all these results? Short story, I got inspired also by a person I met during the interviews. He was a man. He was talking good English and told me, okay, look, many people they come here, they make their research, they make their test, their analysis, they go back to their country, and nothing changes here. So based on this, and also based on the results I achieved, I decided to start a developing cooperation project together with SUPSI and an NGO called Save Ethiopia. Within this project, we have actually developed a technology for water treatment that tackled the problems that I actually indicated during my identified during master thesis. First of all, the problem of the disinfecting powders or the disinfecting powder, the HTH, was imported by India, was imported by China. It's expensive, it's dangerous to handle. The effect of poor manual disinfection. Disinfection is made, as I said, by visually looking at how much water there is in the reservoir, and then just regulating mechanically to put enough drops of disinfectant solution inside, both at the center but also at household level. You remember how few people were performing household water treatment. The problem of water contamination, so a water course after the point of delivery, so between the point of delivery and the point of consumption, and the problem of sustainability of operations and projects by humanitarian aid agencies and by NGOs. How Clara works? Clara works with two simple elements, which is kitchen salt and solar energy. We have the hardware that continuously disinfect the water by producing the disinfectant solution using the water system and inserting the right amount of disinfecting solution in a pipe between the reservoir and the point of delivery. And then we have a software that allows you to monitoring remotely the device. The NGOs, water facility, humanitarian agencies can basically they can just sit at their desk, look at their monitor, and see how the system are performing. They can use this for planning maintenance, for planning aid there, but also for reporting to donors success of their project and their KPIs. Through within this project of development cooperation, we have also proven the efficacy of the Clara system. We've installed two of them in collaboration with the Aqueduct of Awassa. They are now reaching more than 10,000 beneficiaries. Thanks to the presence of enough free residual chlorine at the point of delivery, the presence of Escherichia coli, so E. coli, at household level dropped from 75 to 0%. There was because there was enough free residual chlorine inside the jerrycans that even if the jerrycans were dirty, they were able to protect the water from recontamination. As providing a technology, let's say an hardware, is not enough because as an hardware you need a software. As our technology, you need a software to make it work. We are providing also shows and programs in behavioral changes. Because after that, if we need to achieve accessibility of the system and also sustainability of the system, we have to work with the local population and promote the importance of hygiene practices, like for example, hand washing, and promoting the importance of treating water, and telling them how much they risk if they're not following this. In this, we are working with in the communities where we install the system. We have also performed theater shows with a local group team. They're composed by young people, local performers. Together with them, we developed a theater show. There was also a way to sensitize children there and promote the hygiene activities and the importance of disinfecting the water there. Now we are going towards the end of our project. In March 2022, it will be finished, and we are now like focusing on the sustainability of the project after that. We are thinking of having like income generating activities that will produce and assembly technology. Thanks to the interest also of Swiss investors in this technology, The idea is now is to scale up a Swiss and Italian company, startup that is based here in Ethiopia, will assemble the Clara system and selling the Clara system to different NGOs, humanitarian aid organization, and exporting them worldwide. We have also selected from an innovators and accelerator program promoted by InnoSwiss and SDC. So we are now like participating to this program until November, and meanwhile we are one side looking for investor, the other side we are also keep on developing the technology so that we can reach, let's say, market standard and excel in that. That's the end. Thank you everyone. If you have any question, any curiosity you want to focus more, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Donato. That's very interesting. So if you have any questions, you can also tell the question in German or French. So
yeah, or Italian.
Someone will translate, or Italian, yeah, of course. So that should be the problem. So don't hesitate.
I have a question, Donato. So you said this system is now in use by 2 communities, and do they just, so you have the system in place, and then it's like you don't have a network, you go to the point of production and you get the water there, or do you have like a network? I didn't quite understand the system.
There is a network, so it's actually the system, they're all like this. So you have sources.
It's always this, okay.
To a reservoir, and then it's delivered to standpipes. In this case, we both install them at the outlet of the reservoirs.
Okay.
So in this case, they were doing manual disinfection before. In this case, there was no disinfection at all.
Okay, and so you change the disinfection, but you still, like, you don't have a control over the water. It's just like, you know, it's better than before, but you still are not sure that the drinking water then has like some standard also for other pollutants, for example, or for other bacteria, or like what is the control?
Okay, the water is supplied by the Awassa water authorities, so they check their parameters. What we want to have, so the water is managed by them. What we want to have, our goal is to achieve free residual chlorine at the point of delivery between 0.5 and 1 milligram per liter. So we, of course, we take samples before the installation, over installation, and after that. Our goal is to reduce the probability of getting the Escherichia coli at the point of use. But we don't have any influence on the other parameters. Like I know the water authorities, when they drill a well, they perform their water quality to check for fluoride and so on. But then their water is acceptable, and they think they have water until the point of delivery.
Thank you.
Hi, Donato, thank you. Thanks a lot for your presentation. I also have a question on the system, on the Clara system. You said that you are monitoring water quality. I mean, you present information on the dashboard, so it indicates that you are having some digital sensors controlling the system. It was really not clear how the chlorination system works, how the electrolysis is connected. I mean, is it controlled? Where is it installed? Maybe you could describe it a bit more.
Yeah. Through the remote monitoring system, we have controls over the flow water and over the devices, like for example, the solar panel, the battery, and so on. But we don't have control about the quality, because until now we didn't install any electrical sensors inside the system. Once we get, for example, the free residual chlorine sensor, we can also monitor the presence of free residual chlorine at the point of disinfection. How the disinfection works? Basically, on the flow, we calculate the flow of water, and we insert the right amount of chlorine every 20 or every 100 liters through a pre-salted pump. So we have, we have the water system in the two systems that we install until now. The production is made outside of the system, but now we are we're developing a new prototype where the production is made inside the system itself. So basically, the operator needs to add salt, and the system itself controls the production of the disinfectant solution and inserts it in the pipe based on the flow of water.
And you are developing the device yourself, or this is in collaboration with Antenna, or how is the?
I'm doing it actually by myself. There is like support from Antenna, like technical support. For the moment, yes, I'm doing it by ourselves. Actually, we are a team of 4 people here on the field.
Cool.
Okay, there are some other questions on the chat. What are the costs for the community? The cost of the community is actually lower than before, because here we are using only salt for producing the sodium hypochlorite instead of using imported HDH. So we basically have estimated it around to be 4 or 5 times lower the cost of importing the cost of producing the disinfectant solution. Does the Clara system require a lot of maintenance? Depends. Until now, we install only 2 systems, so it's quite early to estimate how the maintenance goes in the long term. Until now, we had more problems, let's say, on the hydraulic part, so leakages or especially leakage of sodium hypochlorites, but those can be technically feasible to avoid. While on the software part and in the use of the PCB, we are quite good there. So in terms of cost, those devices that we are using, they don't cost a lot of money. They're quite cheap. In terms of time, we by looking at our online dashboard, we can plan and to see if, for example, the battery is working well, the solar panel is working well, the flow meter is working well. So we are also able to plan operations for maintaining the systems. Hope I answer both of your questions. Okay, thank you.
So if there are no more questions, I would thank you all for, especially I thank Donato for the presentation. It was really interesting. And thank you all for the participation and and all the questions you asked. So I enjoyed it, and I wish all of you a nice evening, afternoon. Not quite there yet. And thanks again, and see you next time, hopefully.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.